Hello, Olathe West. Welcome to your first ACT prep for mathematics. What we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and go over introductions, how this program will work every Monday, and we're going to do a mathematical topic called absolute values. You definitely want to probably get your calculators out because we're going to be using those. So first off, what exactly is this going to be? Well, we're going to introduce this lesson today. We're going to talk about the video series, how it's going to work, how you're going to access these every Monday. Also, let's say you're doing the math one on Monday and you really heard the English one was really good. How would you access that English one also on Monday night or Tuesday or Wednesday? Or maybe you want to see last week's video. We'll show you how to do that. We're also going to go over our big goals. What are the goals that we are going to have for this ACT prep? What are the things we want to do? And then what are your individual goals? What are you hoping to get out of this? What would you like to have happen at the end of going through all these videos? And then how each week works. What's the process? How do we get the materials that you're going to use? And then also, we're going to go over absolute value ACT questions. In this prep series, we're going to be using just ACT questions. So we're not making up questions that are not appearing on the ACT exam, but we're actually using release ACT exam questions. Well, first off, introduction. The focus of the math videos will be the math section of the ACT. The math section has 60 questions and 60 minutes to accomplish them. That works out to about a minute a question. But really, like the first 20 questions, they might take you maybe 30 seconds a question. Maybe the last 20, they might take you maybe a minute and a half per question. Kind of depends on the difficulty of it. So like those first 20, they're just trying to get you like relaxed, taking your math test, keep you at ease. Now that's not to say there's not going to be a stinker or two in those first 20, but for the most part, they're not too bad. The math that they cover is all the mathematics from grade 7 to algebra 2. Now there are some pre-calculus questions on there, but it's like 1 or 2 questions. And so if you're not in that class, I would not worry about that kind of question. You'd still be able to score really high. Like you could miss out of 60 questions, if you got 90% of them right, like the lowest A you could get. Well, that would give you a 30 on the math section of the ACT. It's a pretty weird scale. You're like, wow, an A is a 30%, is a 30? A 30 is a great score, So anyway, that's the math that it's covering. Seems like a lot of people tend to need a lot of help with the algebra and the geometry part. Those are the parts that tend to interrupt people the most. Every week, we're going to spend time covering a mathematical topic on the ACT. There's a lot of math topics like probability, absolute value, factoring. We're going to do these to get you prepared for the test. I'm also going to go over a lot of test taking strategies that work just on the math. Now, these are like pro tips that we don't allow in math class. Like we like seeing your work on the math, on any math exam, but in ACT, they just score the bubble. So wouldn't you want to know how to get the correct bubble quickly without having to do a lot of math? That's the goal. Also, did you know you could use your calculator on every single question on the math section? Let's show you how to do that. Okay, big goals. I want to give you some confidence on tackling every question. I'm going to show you how to guess and check, how to eliminate choices. Like there's 5 choices for every math question, right? All the other parts of the ACT have 4, but math has 5. What if I showed you how to get rid of 3 of the choices and get it down to a 50-50? That would be pretty great. Like if you get half the questions right on the math section, you'd be able to get like a 23 on the ACT. That's not too bad. I want to give you some knowledge to answer each question correctly. That's the content part we'll be teaching. Some of this stuff you learn in 7th grade, like least common multiple. When's the last time you've done that? Well, it appears on the ACT every year. 1 question. I want to let you remember those things. I'm going to give you proven techniques to eliminate incorrect answers, such as, did you know that the ACT draws everything to scale? Like I went through the last, 20 years of the ACT because it's fun. And I found only 2 questions where the question was not drawn to scale. And guess what? They told you on the question, it's not drawn to scale. So what that tells me is if we're trying to estimate angles or lengths, we could use a piece of paper as a ruler. We could think about the corner of a piece of paper being 90 degrees. And we can use these things to help get rid of answers that are not correct and maybe get it down to a 50-50. Goal number, goal number 3 appeared twice. It's so important. I guess that's goal number 4. We want to maximize your score based on confidence and knowledge. Want to make sure that you get the best score you can. Now, sophomores and juniors, in October, you're going to take a practice ACT in October. And you're going to get back to, and I'm the one that scores all those. So I'm going to get you back your scores maybe that night, which would be parent-teacher conferences, or the following Monday. And you're going to know, okay, here's what I got on the math, science, English, and reading section. Also, you'll be told, here's every question on the test. Here's what the correct answer was. And here's if you got it right or wrong. And if you got it right or wrong, what response did you put down? What mistake did you make, right? And we're going to learn from that. Freshmen, you're going to be taking the pre-ACT in October. And that's a great one because it's like a prediction into the future. They're trying to say, okay, when you're a junior and you take the ACT, what score do we think you might get? Now, it's not fixed in stone. A lot of things are going to happen between now and your junior year, but it's like a glimpse into the future. Hey, here's where you're at right now. What are some things you can change? And I think as we continue with these ACT videos every week, you're going to be building up your knowledge more and more and more, and you're going to do way better on it, okay? Individual goals. Let's take a few minutes and just reflect on this. I want you to think. So if you could, we're gonna be doing some math work here in a little bit. I'd like you to get out like one piece of paper to write on. We're not collecting this. This could be a scratch piece of paper. Could be anything, right? Something to write on. Where do you think you would score right now on the ACT? Now, the lowest score you could get is a 1, and the highest score is 36. Where do you think you would score? Like if you took the test at this moment, right, for the next like 3.5, 4 hours, what do you think you'd get? Okay. Now here's the next one. Where do you want your score to be on test day? So whenever you take the actual ACT, not the practice one October, but the one that you would take, that you would send into colleges, and you can take this test multiple times. I think last year we had a senior that had taken the test like 7 times throughout high school. I don't recommend 7 times. I'd like you to only have to take it once and have that one time be your best score. But what would you want your score to be? Be truthful now, you know, and some colleges I know aren't requiring the ACT to get in, right? Because of COVID and things. But I know for math class, they use the ACT scores to place you in a math class. Like to get placed into college algebra, you need to score at least a 22 on the ACT. And if not, they're going to put you in like a remedial math class in college, right? If you want to be placed in the calculus, you'd have to score at least a 28, right? Without that, you'd be placed in a class before calculus and have to test in. Also scholarships like KU and a lot of colleges offer like lots of money for ACTs. Like if you get a 32, some schools will give you $10,000 for school to pay for tuition. That's pretty awesome. You know, like 32, there's no way I can get to a 32. Well, you know what? They'll give you $1,000 if you're able to score like a 26 on the ACT, okay? And you're going to notice as we're practicing math questions, ACT likes to reuse math questions all the time. Like I'm starting to recognize a lot of questions that were asked in the past. So as we practice these, you're going to see like for today, absolute value, wow, this question, they just changed the numbers, but it's really the same kind. So you get more familiar with it. Now, what will it take to get from where you are to where you want to be? You know, you wrote down what your ACT score would be right now and what you want to be. What do you think it's going to take? Let's say someone thought, oh, I think my ACT score would be like a 15 right now, and I'd really like to get it to a 22. What do you think it would take? Write down a couple things. I'll give you like 30 seconds here. Okay. And then the last one, are you willing to engage in a weekly deep dive into a variety of different ACT question types and continue improving your skill? Are you willing to really take part in these videos every Monday? I mean, I'm not saying just you're going to watch it and do whatever. Like, are you going to be actively engaged? Like, man, I really want to improve myself on this. I want to get a really great score. Are you willing to do that? I'm hoping the answer is yes, because all the teachers here at Olathe West, we want everyone here to do extremely well. We want you to do the best that you possibly can. For some students, the best that they could possibly get is like a 15. And you know what? That's fine if that's the best that they can do and they've been practicing and they're engaged and doing all these things. But let's say someone gets a 17 and they're just not actively engaged. They're not really working at this thing. You're cheating yourself out of a lot of money that you could get for scholarships that are free. You don't have to pay those back. I don't want you to shortchange yourself. And this would be like an every Monday thing. You pick a video to watch, whether it be math, science, English, or reading. And the videos are posted. So you could watch other videos later. Like when you get home, like, man, that math one was really good. I wonder what last week's math video was. I'm going to go watch that one too. Or, man, I watched the English one and my friend said the reading was really good. I'd really like to watch that reading one. You can. We've got them on the YouTube channel. We'll show you how to access those. And all these videos are going to be 30 minutes or less. Today, it's going to be a little bit less. Okay, how's it going to work each week? Well, this first week, we're doing an introduction to it, and I'm going to talk about one mathematical topic, absolute values. Then each week, we're going to cover a new topic using actual ACT math questions. Sometimes we're going to do a grouping of questions, like maybe numbers 1 through 15, or maybe numbers 50 to 60, where I'll give you a time. I'll have a timer on the screen and you're going to answer them. Now I'm going to show you how to access those questions so that way you'd have it in front of you and you can write it on paper, okay? But we're going to do a mix of this. Now, how does it work? In the description of each video, so when a video loads, there's this description at the bottom, and sometimes you have to click this little blue that says show more, because we'll have a web link. If there's materials you need, like there will be materials that you'll need to have, right? Like, hey, here's the 15 questions we're going to work on today. Here's in the science section, here's the reading, here's the science section that we're going to be doing. You want to have access to that. So it'll be in the description. So usually you have to click this little blue thing in the description that says show more, and then you'll see a video link. You'll see a web link. It'll jump you to our Google Drive, and you could go ahead and copy, download that needed file that you need. Also, what you probably should do is, after watching this video today, go to the YouTube channel itself and subscribe. So you might have to, click, you all watch YouTube, right? This is one video in our channel. Subscribe, go to the main thing and subscribe to it. Also, follow us on Twitter at Olathe West ACT. We'll send out information to you, things about the ACT. We might even send out the links to these videos on there also. I want to try to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to get those. Now, also on our channel, like when you subscribe, there's a nice Olathe West OWL banner at the top. And there'll be a thing here that said, click here for ACT materials. You might want to click on that. You might even want to save that to your Google Drive, so that way it's even easier for you to get these materials. And just think about this, like for freshmen, right? Freshman year, sophomore year, and the junior. Imagine 3 years of really great, meaningful practice doing these deep dives. You're going to do very well. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the absolute value questions. And I really need you to get your calculator open. All right. So open up a calculator. On it. And here's the first question. Now, those vertical lines mean absolute value. And I'll tell you, 2 years ago, when the juniors took, this is from the test that the juniors took, right? Do you notice that the answers are all increasing? They go from negative answers to positive answers. We'll always use that for our advantage. Okay. But would you believe that 70% of the juniors said this was the answer? 70% in the district. This is the most commonly missed question. So one of the techniques I want you to always do on the ACT is glance at the answers and eliminate the choices that don't make any sense. Okay. So since we're doing absolute value here, doesn't it make sense that we're going to be getting only positive answers? So shouldn't we automatically eliminate these two? Now think about that. We're getting it down to, there's only 3 options now instead of 5. And that didn't take very long to do, just a couple seconds. And it saves you from making those mistakes. Well, I'm going to do it mathematically, and then I'm going to show you how to use your calculator to get it too, because you could just type this in your calculator and get it. ACT is not worried. They just want to make sure you get the right answer. It's time, so you might get less questions done. But if we work out this absolute value, I think 6 times -7 is -42. And I think 8 times 4 is 32. So we really have the absolute value of -42 plus 32. And when we add those up, we get the absolute value of -10. And of course, the absolute value of -10 is 10, right? Absolute value makes things positive. The answer is C. And again, the most common mistake is people pick letter B. But if we eliminate that off the chance at the beginning, we're not going to make that error. Now, how would you use your calculator to get this, right? So on the TI-84CE and on the TI-80, so any kind of TI-84 calculator, here's a pro tip. There's a secret menu where this is located. Not many people know about this. To get the secret menu, you do this. You press the alpha button and you press these buttons on the top row. As we press these buttons on the top row, these secret menus appear. When you press Y equals, this is where all the fractions are located. That's where the fractions are located, right? If I go to window instead, that's where I see absolute value. So I want to make sure I choose that absolute value. So it's the absolute value of, I'm going to type it in, 6 parenthesis, -7. Make sure to use the negative sign, not the minus sign, right? 6 negative. I'm just typing in exactly the way it appears. All right, press enter. We have the right answer. That took under a minute. You know, this is a perfectly valid way. Now in math class, we want you to do what I kind of outlined here. But on the ACT, whatever method, as long as it's legal, right? Okay, next one's going to be your turn to do. So this one, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Ten seconds left. Okay. I'm hoping when you saw this question, you're like, oh, absolute value. We should only be getting positive answers. So I should eliminate these 2 choices because there's no way we're getting a negative answer here. And then if I plug the number 8 in for the X, 3 minus 8, well, that's going to be -5. I'm really glad we eliminated -5 as a choice. I might pick it by mistake. Its absolute value is 5. There's the answer. Now, if I type this one in, again, we got to go to that secret menu, right? Alpha, Y equals. And if I forget which button on the top row, I just start clicking buttons on the top until I get it. There it is, absolute value. And I'm just going to type it in, 3 minus, and X is an 8, so I put an 8 there. Press enter, you got the answer. Not too bad. Notice this is question number 4. It's one of those ones that's supposed to like, hey, let's take it easy with this, not too bad. Absolute values do occur all over the test. All right, let's look at another one. We're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total questions here. Next one is this. Okay, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to work it out. 10 seconds left. Okay. On this one, be careful. Don't eliminate these negative answers because the question is not just absolute value. Whoops. Sorry about that. Don't eliminate these negative answers here because we're taking an absolute value, subtracting another absolute value, right? So want to be careful with this. Let's do this in part. So in math class, the absolute value of -6 is 6. We bring down the minus sign. And then 7 minus 41 is -34. Okay, let's keep going. We're bringing down the minus sign. The absolute value of -34 is +34. And now we have 6 minus 34, which is -28. And then that's our answer. I'm going to key it in also into the calculator, right? Remember that secret menu, it's alpha, and then window is where absolute value is located. And I'm going to type in -6. Make sure to use the negative sign, not the minus sign. And then to get out of that absolute value, we kind of click the right arrow to get out of there. And then we're going to say subtract, right? Not minus. We're doing a subtraction sign here. And then alpha, window, absolute value, 7 minus 4. Press enter. Oh my gosh, it's 7 minus 41, isn't it? No big deal. We can fix this. If I press the up arrow to get on top of something like that, I can press enter and it just copies it down. I can go ahead and change it. I'm just going to insert a 1 with that. So 7 minus 41. -28. We have the answer, letter G. Excellent. Let's see here. We have 2 left. Now look at this one. Now this is number 40. So absolute value is appearing on. Well, you know what? I think we're just going to stop right here. Thank you all very much today. We're going to keep on working as we go through. Nicely done, everyone.